It's May 1st. Bitcoin halving, the implications, where are we in this super cycle, Bitcoin mining, liquidity opportunities, and my price predictions. Let's go. I received a lot of feedback from my latest investor newsletter regarding the Bitcoin halving in context of Bitcoin mining and the particulars about this particular Bitcoin halving cycle and liquidity opportunities, so that you guys, as especially Bitcoin miners and investors, can have transparency around when is a good time to sell my Bitcoin. So here's the video. I'm going to give it to you guys first, but let's start off with a little bit of context as to what happened in 2023. Now, 2022 and 2023, as you guys well remember, is when we raised all this money, deployed it into ridiculously cheap Bitcoin mining infrastructure and assets, etc., and deployed it in preparation for what has happened in 2024 and beyond. Bitcoin go up. But let's get a little bit of context for 2023. So let's catch ourselves up here. Now, Bitcoin started 2023 at a cycle depressed price of $16,200. Some of you guys remember that. And it ended 2023 a few $100s short of $45,000, once again proving the strength and resilience of both Bitcoin, what I like to call the honey badger of money, because it just don't give two Fs. It will keep on going. The economic, monetary, and social implications and the value proposition is far too strong. To the surprise of many, a new all-time high price for Bitcoin was reached before the halving of $73,835 on March 14th. This actually marks, and I tweeted about this, this marks the first time a new all-time high has ever occurred prior to a halving in the history of Bitcoin, which I believe is one of the very powerful signals that indicate that this cycle, cycle 5 of the Bitcoin history that we have seen so far, will indeed, mark my words, my friends, be its finest moments in the sun. And this cycle, this fifth cycle that we're entering into, will be a true super cycle. Now, all other cycles that we've experienced over the last decade plus thus far have featured exponential growth in percentage terms, but with much smaller numbers than the multi-trillion-dollar value this cycle that we're moving into will unleash as Bitcoin moves from the fringes of our economy and society rapidly into the mainstream. You guys have seen me talk about this, especially with my investor newsletters and my insider videos to investors that I end up making public about the logarithmic growth pattern of Bitcoin, right? The logarithmic growth pattern of Bitcoin crossing the chasm and moving into exponential growth. The main accelerator of this Bitcoin supercycle has been, in the beginning of 2024, the passing of the Bitcoin ETF, which the SEC approved in January, and the demand for Bitcoin from traditional IRAs, 401k investors, etc., has led to the buying of nearly 6,000 Bitcoin per day from the ETFs and other institutional buyers alone. As of April 20th, Bitcoin halving date, there was only 450 Bitcoin a day produced by mining, half the amount per day for the prior 4 years, as you guys well know. The new Bitcoin on this market from mining is only about 20% of the new demand from ETFs alone. In 2028, the amount of new Bitcoin per day will drop in half again to 225 new Bitcoin per day, then 112.5 Bitcoin per day in 2032, 56.25 per day in 2036, and just 28.125 per day in 2040. Now, this is just compared to the 7,200 Bitcoin per day released in 2009 and the first halving of 2012. Now, I was actually racing, some of you guys saw the tweets, but I was actually racing with the boy during the halving, looking at the tickers between tire changes. Fanfare be damned. And actually, it was interesting. In my opinion, there was almost the least amount of fanfare about the halving that I've witnessed from years past. Now, I think every hype cycle of 4 years brings in new actors, new people, new blood, new noobs, new shitcoiners, etc., and their money will be lost, and the hype cycle continues. However, I felt like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I felt like this halving was a little muted. And because it's a little bit muted, because I've got a lot of DMs and feedback from investors asking what's gonna happen, let me tell you my ideas. Of course, none of this is financial advice. It's just an idea based on some math that I've put together. So here's what I'm doing. I'm sticking with my price prediction of the 3x the halving price as an all-time high for this current cycle that we're entering into, which portends a Bitcoin high of about $192,000, 3 times the halving price of $63,900, or about $64,000. It'd be nice to be able to round this up or round this out to $200,000. Now, if you think about that and you backtest it, you'll find that not terrible. But also, from a Bitcoin miner perspective, if you're in that world, certainly we're going to be taking some, let's just say, liquidity moments as we march up to the 192, let's just say 200,000 price point, so that we can make sure that everybody gets paid and everybody wins as we go up into the 150s plus. So you guys can do your own speculation at that. But here's my idea, though. At that price, the Bitcoin market capitalization would be nearly about $4 trillion, with altcoins likely peaking out around the same number. The supercycle effect of Bitcoin users finally passing about 8% of the global population could push that number up even higher. Now, remember, I'm always looking at Bitcoin from a startup perspective, and I believe that this supercycle adoption, and maybe we could look back in history, that it's relatively been true historically that when a disrupting technology, goes mainstream, it rips from about 8 to 10% to about 80% adoption in about 10 years. Now, this happened with the automobiles, the radio, television, internet, the mobile phones. We've all been alive. We can track that almost ourselves. And I believe that it will take place in the next coming 10 years. Now, you guys have heard me talk about Bitcoin mining be exponentially viable as we move into 2032, up to 2032. Let's put it that way. And so this next 10 years, so we're at 2024. So the next 8 years, 10 years, it's going to be the best time to absolutely extract all of the value of Bitcoin, especially mining, that we possibly can. And as we hodl all the way up in the next 8 years, it's going to be amazing. Now, a lot of this adoption is also due to rapid adoption in places like Nigeria and Latin America, where it is becoming an essential tool in combating the runaway hyperinflation that these faltering national currencies are dealing with. And probably by this time in the next 6 to 8 years, we're going to see even more countries join the hyperinflation train, which will further the demand spike and adoption spike that I expect to see. Now, remember, friends, I see the Bitcoin as a startup. It's all about startup. If you track the metrics like user growth, user adoption, country adoption, second layer applications, developer growth, code, and more, then Bitcoin, the startup, will grow larger than anything that you know of, your Facebook, your Apple, your Google, your Netflix, etc. For my venture investors, our next newsletter will advise on liquidity points for profitability in Bitcoin mining. But for everybody else out there, stay frosty, my friends. This is going to be the super cycle that we've been waiting for. And some of you who have been with me for over a decade now, this is what we were talking about 10 years ago. 2014. This is what we were talking about. Let's go.